I had an agent who, while she knew she had a talent, didn't quite know how to harness it, because if left to my own devices, I go off and, do strange movies about British India or something like that. So she put me with a manager, a fellow named Kip Oman, and Kip brought me the short story of The Fly and said, Fox owns this. You have a relationship with Fox, which I did. I had developed a relationship with an executive over there, David Madden, one of the true gentlemen, still to this day, one of the true gentlemen in the business. And I also knew Joe Mazan through, his wife had actually gotten me my agent. So it was all this arcane chain of events that had made this Fox connection. But anyway, Kip said, gave me the short story, said, this movie needs to be remade, and you're the guy to do it. You have a relationship over there.
Chuck Pogue came into my office and said that he had the idea of remaking The Fly, which I thought was a great idea, and we talked about it a bit.
I wasn't totally convinced I was the guy to do it, because science fiction really hadn't been my genre, although I kind of liked horror, and I guess this sort of crosses both worlds. But I read the story. I kind of liked the story. I thought it was an interesting story. And they showed me the film. It was the first time I'd ever seen the film.
Madame!
Yes? Yes, who is this?
Francois. I've killed my husband, Andre Delambre, about half an hour ago in the hydraulic press shed.
This head is under the piles.
This is the work of a madman.
Did your brother ever experiment with animals?
The first live experiment was disastrous.
No. Helene and Andre believed in the sacredness of life. They wouldn't harm anything.
Tomorrow you'll be the most famous cat in all the world. She disintegrated perfectly, but never reappeared.
Well, where's she gone?
Into space. A stream of cat atoms. It'd be funny if life weren't so sacred.
You're a strange man, Andre.
Andre wants to show you something.
In the lab?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is it, flat screen?
It's better.
Oh, dear. We won't see him for lunch.
I see what you mean.
Now, you let it go at once. You know how your father disapproves of you catching insects.
This isn't like any other fly I've ever seen. It has a funny white head and sort of white legs.
Now, you let it go at once.
Best fly I ever caught.
I transmitted myself successfully yesterday morning, but in a second experiment, a fly which I did not notice was in the disintegrator with me. When we integrated again, our atoms were mixed. Now my only hope is to find the fly.
I'll find that fly. It can't be far away.
I've got to go through the machine once more with it and pray our atoms untangle. If you can't find it, I'll have to destroy myself.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
There are things man should never experiment with. Now I must destroy everything, all evidence, even myself. I've thought of a way. It's not easy, but I need your help.
Why did he die?
Well, Philippe, he died because of his work. He was like an explorer in a wild country where no one had ever been before. He was searching for the truth. He almost found a great truth. But for one instant, he was careless.
That's what killed him?
Search for the truth is the most important work in the whole world and the most dangerous.
Well, come along, you two. I'll see you off.
And I thought, well, it's interesting. I mean, the problem with the film immediately that I saw was that you had a guy who, once he went through the transformer and became a fly, you had a passive hero. He had no facial expressions, no way to articulate or vocalize his thoughts or his distress. I mean, you had him just, scrawling things on a chalkboard. And so the story, by default, sort of shifts over to the wife, and it becomes about her descent into madness. And of course, that was sort of tough, given the fact that you had this woman in pearls and high heels, looking like beaver cleavers, mother, and trying to go mad.
He put his head on his arm under the press. Why?
I cannot answer that question. Coffee, Inspector?
Mr. DeLombre, do you think she's mad?
It's obvious, isn't it?
They think I'm mad, don't they?
When did you first see that fly, Philippe?
The day Daddy went away. I had caught it, but Mummy made me let it go. And then later, she wanted me to find it again. She changed her mind. You know how women are.
Oddly enough, that screenplay of the original film by James Clavell follows the short story very closely. I mean, it is what it is. But again, you had this dicey science as well. Why does he go through and the fly get a little human head and he gets a big fly head? I mean, I didn't quite get all that.
Shut us.
There's the great story of Vincent Price and Herbert Marshall at the end with the little spiderweb scene. It was all they could do to keep from cracking up while they're trying to say their lines.
You've committed murder just as much as Helene did. You killed a fly with a human head. She killed a human with a fly head. If she murdered, so did you.
I know. Who's going to believe us? They'll think we're both mad.
I wasn't really interested in doing like a head-switching film, but if it was more of a metamorphosis, that was something that interested me because I thought that was a way to really, tell a longer story.
I think initially I had done an outline closer that adhered closer to the story, and we all knew that sort of wasn't going to work, and we had to sort of just rethink and refashion this thing out.
I had a deal at Fox at that point, and Fox had the rights to the film, so we went in and they basically said, "Fine, go, develop the film."
They did front the money for a screenplay. I went off and wrote a screenplay.
We turned it into the studio.
David Madden fostered it, and took it up to Joe Wazan.
And the studio did not want to go ahead with the film, and they also were not interested in giving me the rights to the film to see if I could set it up elsewhere. So I sort of pestered them, and finally I got them to agree to distribute the film if I was able to raise the money to make it. Now, the first person I went to help me with that was Mel Brooks.
Stewart was a young producer, sort of breaking out on his own. Stewart had brought The Elephant Man and David Lynch, I guess, to Mel Brooks.
So I told him, what the situation was, and I gave it to him like on a Friday, and then on the Monday, he just calls me up and he's like screaming, "This is garbage. This is horrible. This is stupid." I mean, and he's just railing against the thing.
I remember my first meeting with Mel Brooks, which was sort of fun because he kept talking about badinage. He kept referring to my dialogue as badinage.
But all of his concerns were sort of things that took place in the first 10 pages. So I said, just how far did you read? And he said, well, I just kind of finished. I said, look, finish the script, and if you don't want to do it, fine.
But it was a very amusing meeting. At one point, he said to me, "If I say it's wrong because I'm a genius and I'm always right."
So he finished the script, liked the script, said that he wanted to get involved. felt that that the script definitely needed work and wanted to bring another writer on.
When Stuart went back to Mel for money, there sort of became this, it's like the prodigal son returning, and there was this sort of, I don't know that you would call it a power struggle, but somehow because I was Stuart's boy, I suddenly disappeared, and then this director came on. There had been a rewrite by Waylon Green, I believe.
He did a draft. It had some good things, but overall I thought it was kind of a step backwards. And during that time I was trying to get a director on the film. I had sent the film to David Cronenberg. He was doing Total Recall. So he wasn't available, but I had seen this short film, The Rocking Horse Winner, that this guy Robert Bierman had directed, and sort of got him to be. I asked him if he wanted to direct it. He was interested in directing it.
I was quite a new filmmaker, so I think when you're a new filmmaker, what you want to bring to a project is everything you've got, every single thing that you feel about making a film, about the project, the emotions. I think obviously why young filmmakers are picked is because they are so emotionally driven to making a project so personal and so important. So I think that's what I felt. I was just totally and utterly single-minded about making it the best movie ever made in the history of movies.
But I had actually been taken off the film before he came on, I believe. It's like
we had gotten to the point where Chuck Pogue was back on the project and was going to be working with Robert Bierman. And Bierman was British. I'd gone to England. We had, talked to Chris Tucker, who had done the makeup for Elephant Man, and we were in the process of sort of early pre-production while we were working on the script. Bierman came to the U.S., had one meeting with Chuck Pogue, and everything to me was sort of, all right, great, things are like back on track. We've got the right writer and this director I'm really enthusiastic about.
Well, we'd broken for Christmas, and we'd come back for Christmas. Actually, the studio head had been fired. There was a new studio head. Everything had changed at Fox over the Christmas period, and ours was the only film in production. Everything else had been stopped, and Mel was incredibly excited because everyone was focusing on this film. So we were really pushing ahead to start shooting, as soon as we could.
And then I got this call at 5 o'clock in the morning from Robert Bierman, just telling me that something horrible had happened, and that I should come to his hotel.
My family had gone to Southern Africa for a holiday, and I was in Los Angeles, and I got a call one day that my daughter had been killed in a tragic accident in South Africa. And that morning, I told Mel and Stu, I just got in a car, got on a plane, and flew to South Africa.
It's just one of those nightmares of trying to get him on a plane and realizing that once he was on the plane, it was going to be 23 hours before he could get home. Anyway, whatever. So basically everything stopped, and we waited a month and then talked to Bierman.
I spent a long time down there, had to sort everything out, sort out my family. Went back to England, and Mel asked me, am I ready to come back on the film? And the thing was that I'd lost my desire to make the movie, and I just couldn't give him and Stuart the 100% commitment to the movie. And it was a purely emotional thing. I think that, I could have gone on to the movie and done an okay movie, but I didn't want to make an okay movie. I wanted to make the best movie. So Mel Brooks rang me and said, look, we'll wait 3 months. We'll hold the picture for you for 3 months. And he did, he stuck to his word. And after 3 months, I was still, I think the combination of the subject matter of the picture, because it's a very dark picture and it's a very emotionally driven picture, and what had happened, I still just couldn't commit to it. I just said to Mel, I said, I cannot make the picture for you the way I want to. And he was cool. He said, I totally understand, I want you to do it, but, you know, if you want out, then, you know, and I was under contract, so, you know, they could have forced me to do the picture, which they never would. So he just said, you know, do whatever you want to do. And so, you know, I left the picture then.
So we were in this in this bizarre situation of we had a flawed script, no director, a tainted kind of vibe on the movie because of this horrible tragedy, and certain business deals that had gone through because of the configuration of Brooks Films committing to get the movie, and then Fox saying they would do it. It was a horrible mess. I mean, a horrible, horrible mess.
We were meant to be doing Total Recall for Dino De Laurentiis, and at that time, my daughter was, I think, supposed to be starting in a school in junior kindergarten, and we didn't put her in because we thought we were going to be in Rome for 8 months. David went to Los Angeles to have a final meeting with Dino about Total Recall. Decided that he and Dino were trying to make a completely different picture, and he withdrew from the project.
Scott Rudin was an executive at Fox, and he said, what about Cronenberg? And I said, you know, Cronenberg was like my first choice, but he's not available. He's doing Total Recall. And Scott said, I think that's falling apart. He was kind of our one hope. And he had said that he was interested in rewriting the film and directing. We called his agent and said, you know, how much, you know, what kind of money are you looking for? And he said he was looking for $750,000. And, you know, and so, you know, Mel and I are like, you know, all right, $750,000. We have to do this, or, you know, everything's just going to fall apart and it's simply going to be over. So Barry Diller was the head of the studio at that point, and Mel and Barry Diller had been involved in Elephant Man when he had been at Paramount. So Mel basically wrote him this letter saying, this could be an amazing film. This is, you know, it'll transcend the genre. It'll do this and that and the other. We have an opportunity to get arguably the premier director in this genre. We simply have to do it, and we can get him for $1 million. So, and it was just a beautiful letter, and you know, we had a very good relationship with Diller, and that's so the next day Diller's on the phone, and he says, okay, fine, go ahead. So we're talking to David's agent and said, okay, we got your, you know, we understand you're asking for $750, and we would like to counter at $1 million. So fastest deal I've ever seen made in Hollywood. Cronenberg really liked to work with his own crew, so I went up to Canada.
David Cronenberg is a very loyal person, and his crew is kind of in place at all times. He used the same production designer, sound mixer, editor, and in my case, a cameraman on every film. So we would kind of expect to get a call once a year, and David would start up a project.
I've been working with David since the late, I hate to say this, 1970s. And we got together through Peter O'Brien, who was the producer on a picture he was doing in Alberta called Fast Company.
I've worked with David for many years, 25 perhaps. I met him on Fast Company. I met him before Fast Company. I was doing a picture for a producer named Peter O'Brien.
It went through a process of the same producer, but now we have another cameraman that David's used before. And the last minute, literally the Thursday before the Monday, this guy quit. And the script went around and people didn't want to leave town. I said, sure, I'll go anywhere to work with David Cronenberg.
He said, I'll give you, I'll try to get you picture cutting on this movie we're doing with Cronenberg, if he agrees. So months went by, and finally he called me and said, David's in casting, you should come down.
Peter called me, and I just finished one film the day before, and said, could I get on a plane and be in Edmonton that day and to work with David Cronenberg. And I had heard about David, had not seen his films, but had heard really good things about him. And I thought, why not?
And I got there, and he said, he's casting, come back in an hour. So I went downtown, saw a movie, got very nervous. Finally got to meet David, who I had admired, whose work I had admired. And we spent an hour or two talking about motorcycles, cars, car racing, motorcycle racing, everything but the movie. And at the end he said, if you want to cut the movie, that's fine. So I did.
So I end up there on, I think it was Saturday, having read the script on the plane. We prepped this thing Saturday night, all day Sunday, start shooting Monday. By the end of the first week of shooting, David was, oh, you seem to know my style. I mean, we're, really clicking here as well. I've been studying a lot of your films ever since I was able to, ever since he's been making them. So that's where we began, on a non-Cronen film. But later, that was 1978, later that year we did a film called The Brood with Oliver Reed. And then in chronological order, we went, I think we did Scanners and Videodrome, The Dead Zone, and The Fly. That was the last film I did with David.
I'm not sure why David and I stay together. I've stayed together so long. I don't know, maybe it's a mutual respect, or at least I like to think that it's a mutual respect. We feel like family. I feel like his sort of unofficial other sister. And we worked, I guess his whole crew feels like family, and it's a very nice, calm, peaceful working relationship, and I think it's something that we all like to kind of keep together. It's sort of a calm after like the storm of other movies.
I'd worked with him before on Scanners way back when, and was a fan of his all along, so yeah, very familiar with him. And it was interesting because the producer contacted me first, Stuart Kornfeld, and he said, I'm Stuart Kornfeld over at Fox, we're at Brooks Films, and we're planning a remake of The Fly. Now at this point I was like, remakes kind of, I'm not too hot on them unless they can really bring something new, and so I told him, I said, I'm just not really into remakes. And he said, I know, I understand, just read the script. I said, fine, I'll read the script. I read the script, and that was it.
Once we got the go from the studio, we budgeted the film. The studio said that they wanted to make it. We started, we got the commitments from the crew. We had to cast the lead.
Casting was a major issue, a major issue. In fact, that was one of the sort of stipulations I asked David for, was to just make sure that if we go ahead with this, that casting your lead is the #1 priority, because he's where 90% of our difficulties are going to lie.
We had received a list of available actors from an agency, and we're going down the list, going, oh, what about him, what about him, what about, it's like, what about Jeff Goldblum? And it's like, what about Jeff Goldblum? That would be weird.
David's he's wonderful. He's just wonderful, because he says he'll look for what he wants in something, but then he'll say, I know you have needs too. What should I be looking for that'll help you? And so he said, okay, get somebody with no ears and no bridge of the nose, because that way we have a lot more control with the makeup. So, and he actually called to say, look, Chris, I'm thinking of Jeff Goldblum, and I know he's just exactly what you don't want for makeup purposes. And both Stefan and I said, yeah, he's not what we want for makeup purposes, but we were big fans of Jeff, so we just said, we'll make it work, whatever.
You've seen the original movie, You know, I grew up, but when I grew up, my sister and I would go to the Leona Theater, this beautiful theater that's now torn down in Pittsburgh, in the suburb of Pittsburgh, where we're from, and see a lot of those Roger Corman, Vincent Price movies. So I like Vincent Price a lot. I don't think we saw The Fly, because that was a little before that. So at the point, I don't know when it was that I saw The Fly, it was, you know, it was great. You know, I loved that.
So, you know, we sent him the script. He really liked it. And then we went in to tell the studio that we wanted to, you know, to do it with Jeff. And Larry Gordon was head of the studio at that point. You know, Larry Gordon deserves such incredibly high marks for this. He said, you know, I think it's a horrible mistake. It's absolutely a horrible mistake. But it's your mistake to make. And if you want to go down that road and you want to commit to that actor, then go ahead, do it. Which, you know, is especially in the context of where movies have gone. You know, the head of a studio basically backing the filmmakers on a major casting choice that they fundamentally disagree with is a very, you know, kind of brave, you know, sort of menschy thing to do.
Oh, Mr. Borens, it's Renee.
Ah, thank you. Hello. Political implications? Of course there are political implications. That's why we wanted him there. It still doesn't mean I have to pick up his expenses for a 2-week stopover in Sri Lanka. No, he doesn't have to wait. That is my final word. Yes. Sure. Yeah, and Renee, something else. Get me everything you've got on Seth Brundle. Yeah, he's with Bartok. Yeah, their stable of geniuses. He was part of their dog and pony show yesterday. Yeah. And I mean everything, including personal. Dig deep, darling. Thanks.
Just an audition in New York. I was doing a play. I went over to the hotel where David was reading people. I sat and read with him. I had a horrible headache that day. I was just pinched and feeling terrifically uncomfortable. And the first day that we were shooting the scene in my office early on, where Geena comes in to talk to me about the article she wants to write. David said to me, "Can you have the same headache you had that day?"
I remember how that came about, by the way, the physicalization of the more advanced stages. Now, you know, I was supercharged in the little middle section after I go through, but once I started to deteriorate and I get kind of more fly-like, those kind of movement, you know, I'd prepared. I'm nothing if not conscientious, and from the first moment I got this part, I was working on it, and Geena and I were working on it together. That was very nice that we could kind of sculpt things together and work on things. There was one costume and film test where I put on the whole thing, advanced thing, once, and took some, you know, test shots. But that was it until the first day when we had to shoot a scene in that period. And I think the first thing that we shot was when I smashed through that fake glass brick wall.
Right on. Ready? Action!
John. You know, I thought, what am I going to do? I hadn't really practiced. So I remember that day, as I got it on, I looked in the mirror and I thought, oh, it's fly, you know, that fly, I'd scamper around. I started to do that kind of stuff, you know, like a chicken kind of, you know, that kind of stuff, and incorporated a little of that with that kind of, I thought I was probably in physical pain in some way. I'm sure I'd gotten a little more specific around then what hurts and why does it hurt, and things are kind of emerging and trying to break through, and my two different genetic selves are struggling with each other, and it's probably painful, physically painful. That's not to mention that I'm emotionally frustrated and in suffering, you know, so I kind of found that fun. After working hard, it sort of fertilized the ground where I finally could make those discoveries when we did it. And it worked out okay. I like what we came up with.
Rotated off of that point with the window there. So I brought in Kirk Cheney, who's a construction manager, and we played with a whole lot of ideas, and he came in with this incredible concept of using a huge sewer pipe or a culvert. It's a big galvanized corrugated pipe. It was about 24 feet diameter, and we built a set in that.
So the part of the set that was on camera went in there, and the lights themselves had to be connected to that set so they would rotate with it. Not only that, everything, every set piece, every bit of cellophane from all the junk food he ate, everything as it turned sideways and upside down couldn't move because that would give it all away.
So he put that on wheels, which fit right into the corrugations of the pipe, put big bands around it and a motor, and pulled it, turned it in a circle.
All right, ready? Okay, turning. Go ahead.
Then they bolted the camera right to the floor of the set and put a rotating platform, I guess it was, off of the set that the cameraman could sit on.
You're hanging against that. You're hanging against all the floors he's walking
Hanging
on.
against the ceiling, hanging against the skylight. So as long
Whatever
as we
floor
have
he's on, you're hanging
from
from
there. Yeah.
But you should be okay because I think you'll be actually out.
The camera position for these shots is to be part of the room, and then the camera goes upside down. So we had kind of a Ferris wheel kind of carriage allowing the operator to tilt and pan, and as you went up sideways, the pan became the tilt, and as you got upside down, the tilt. It was quite a gymnastics exercise. So we rode the room quite a lot, and Jeff had the easiest part, just like Fred Astaire dancing, and you basically stay in one spot, and the room goes around you. You just have to make it look real.
That was great, wasn't that? That was fun. That was just a beautiful amusement park day. You know, that's like, you know, Fred Astaire. That was just fun. I think I went the day before or at some point when they were building it. And I happily practiced it, I think several times. You know, let me see at what point do I do this, and David's looking, and kind of worked it out and choreographed it a little bit. You know, and then we did it on the day, and that's just great. It's a great magic trick, you know, you just, and you jump on to the next thing as it's rotating. You know, that's a lot of fun.
I think in working with David since 1970, I probably worked exactly the same on every movie with him. We start the same way. I read the script. I meet with him and we talk about it. We talk about what his vision is, what I thought it should look like, about who the characters are. That's a big part usually of each script that we do. We decide who the characters are, where they come from, and what.
And until we saw the film with an audience, we didn't know what their reaction was going to be, which was such yelling that you couldn't hear any of the lines in the next little scene that takes place. Because people go, ah!
Help me. Please help me.
Because I chose to hug, I didn't even think about this as it happened, but I chose to hug him on the missing ear side that was all like ooze pouring out. So David had said all along, you know, we don't want to cross the line where people accidentally laugh at something we don't mean to be funny. You want to push it as far as you can toward that, you know, sort of operatic quality, but not cross the line. So I think we did in that case.
That looks good.
Okay, now back into the, and the tongue goes way back into his mouth.
Your head down, Chris.
Okay, now the shoe back, twist it back towards the mouth. And now the tongue comes out. Mmm, yummy.
Where Brundlefly melts Stathis's ankle was another fake head. That had a really unique mechanism for pulling jaw wide open and twisting it around to get this strange fly tongue to come out, which we shot in incredible detail.
Okay, let's cut.
And there are like microscopic shots of goo dripping off the end of the tongue and stuff.
Should be throbbing and pulsing. Now it goes into the shoe.
The shoe should be a little bit lower.
The shoe is lower.
Okay, and extend to reach the shoe. Come on, tongue.
Come on, tongue. There it is.
Got that wet, that looks great, huh?
Make sure you don't get your head in, Jim.
Yeah, watch your head, Jim.
Keep it back.
You got 200 feet. Ready?
Action. Okay. And over to the foot. Open the jaw. Tongue. Down in there. Yeah.
You want an excited, happy tongue. And let's see it pulse. In and out. And let's see the tip pulse.
Fast. Yeah.
Real fast. Okay. Oh, he likes this. Okay, back down in.
Back in there.
That got a lot of coverage.
Brent, with your right hand, grab the no, that's not your right hand. Your real you right hand. I reversed it for you, but I'm glad to see you're
looking at a reverse monitor.
I see. Don't look at the monitor. Just grab the back of the heel. No, more up higher, but like that. Yeah. In other words, I just wanted a firmer grip. You were holding it with your kind of dainty, like a lady finger cookie, you know? I mean, what kind of man are you anyway?
Well, I had my little finger stuck in.
I actually kept my foot from this movie in my refrigerator at home for some years afterwards. They gave me the shoe with the stump of my ankle coming out of it, and the neighbor kids used to come over in New York, you know, and to be a knock on the door and some little kid saying, "Hey, John, Anthony wants to see your foot." You know, it was great. It was one of my great thrills.
Follow the tongue. Okay. Go, tongue, go.
Follow that tongue.
Follow that tongue.
Keep the face alive. Okay, let's cut.
David, how do you feel about that?
I feel sick to my stomach. It's great.
Good. Okay. All right. Let's check the gates, please.
I really enjoyed watching the transformations toward the very end. Once I take his jaw off, then it's not Jeff in there anymore.
At that point in time, transformations were big in films. I can't remember what stuff was going on, but it was after the werewolf movies that Rick Baker and Rob Bottin had worked on, Altered States, and they'd all used bladders for that Dick Smith came up with, basically, for the transformation effects for having things grow and all this stuff. And I brought this point up to David early on, going, we got a transformation movie here. I really like to avoid that technique because it's just been seen too much. I mean, it had been talked about, written up, Good Morning America had it on, It's like, okay, the housewives know about the technique. We got to do something else.
That was grueling. I think those last few minutes from when his jaw comes off till the end took like a couple of weeks to shoot, especially when you have an animatronic thing. It takes a long time to set everything up.
Strong arm.
Rip that
the opposite
sucker.
way.
It says it's gotta go up more, I think.
Keep your head back, Geena. More straight arm, stiffer elbow.
Geena, I told you to work out, goddammit. Okay, rip that sucker off. Get mad. Pull. Come on. Keep going. Cut. How about David?
Geena, romantica, what are you doing?
And I was crying through the whole thing. So I had to basically cry for like 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, my eyes were all just puffed up permanently, swelling.
Say something.
Still on camera, Geena.
Cut.
Very nice.
That looked very good.
Geena, this is serious business, Geena.
Yeah, I mean, Geena, you're supposed to keep acting until we say cut, aren't you?
No.
Ready? And action!
No, I won't. No, I can't.
Good.
So what we had to do for the transformation was have something that would happen in a revealing way rather than a distorting way and a forming way. So we went with the analogy of the insect and saying, okay, well, they start from whatever, the eggs and the pupa and all this stuff. So his skin is sort of, we took the attitude that his skin has become this useless shell for him, and so when the shell's done, he just breaks loose.
Left foot. Do you hear me?
Harry, we're pulling on it. We can't get anything.
Huh.
And action.
Okay, ready, and 2.
They were fairly simple effects, but there were a lot of them and a lot of different ones.
Cut.
I'm stepping on the blood.
So the transformation, as quick as it is on film, wound up being very complicated in terms of the number of gags and rigs we had to do for it. The actual head split was a real challenge and a real tough one. It was because we had to somehow, probably about that size, and Jeff Goldblum's head is probably about that size.
Okay, eyes. Howie. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, I really like that.
That was good.
Ooh, let's cut.
I think it was Kelly Lepkowski who did the mechanism for that, which was basically several plates that compressed like this. So we have the space bug face on there, the Brundle face on top of that, so that as we released these heavy springs inside, it would actually literally push the face skin off, and as well as expanding the head, so that when at the end of the shot we actually wound up with something that looked like the space bug rather than just something that pushed the face off.
Eyes.
Skins.
That head, Jim. No.
Come on, baby, you can do it. Get that. Geena, grab it. Pull it out, Geena. Come on, Geena, go.
Oh.
Okay, now act. Okay, now let his head, no, seriously, so I'm serious. And Gene, let his head go back the other way. The funny way, you know? Flat.
Retract it?
Yeah, retract it. Gina, act,
Howie,
seriously.
follow me. Okay, wait a sec. Gina, can you push on those little feelers?
Wait, let me get in.
Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
There we go.
Push the feelers in.
Okay.
Okay? Just hang on.
All right, now pay attention to David.
Okay.
Okay, that's it, Chris.
Serious? This is serious. Okay, you gotta get rid of that piece of snot there. Good. Okay, thank you, Gina. And action ahead.
Okay.
There you go.
Gina, you're horrified. Ooh. And now his eyes open. And then blink. There we cut. What happened?
Sure did.
We ran out just before you said cut.
So I said cut because I heard you say, "Ah, fuck."
Well, then we all did it perfectly.
The nature of the piece is that everything is so interweaved together. Everything has to flow from one sequence to the other, from one design step to the next, that even all the little stuff was still a major consideration because it had to fit in really tightly. It wasn't just like, okay, there's a monster here, great, we can do a monster. It was like, and that monster has to look like it came from this monster and it's going to that monster, okay. And then it also has to be able to do this and still be recognizable as the actor who needs to perform in it. Like, so, okay. And that went on through the course of the entire production.
You're going to get a fucking nasty shock if you keep fucking with that.
Hold on. Hang on. Just needs video. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down.
The Space Bug was actually a series of puppets. One thing you have to realize about the Space Bug is, in most puppets, you're dealing with a fairly symmetrical character. So you can work slave systems to be pretty one-to-one. So, you move your arm this far, the puppet moves its arm that far. However, you get to something as asymmetrical as a Space Bug, which has joints that are not only not spaced the same, but are actually facing opposite directions.
When I say go, ready? 1, 2,
Your puppeteering gets compounded many times over because you can do the same thing you normally do with this arm, but with this one you go like this, and then you have to do that. And so trying to move everything at the same time and keep those proportional movements under control is really challenging.
Okay, ready, and guy, reach. Okay, pull the arm back. And turn.
Oh, can we do that move again? And please keep that left hand working constantly. It went dead when it was right in the middle of the frame. Don't stop. Okay, action.
Okay, ready.
It was fantastic to watch. It was some of the most exciting, some of the most moving stuff that we did. I thought it was, I was just fixed to the floor sometimes with, missing limbs, watching some of this, but watching this creature stumbling around, it was the most extravagant and beautiful puppet show I'd seen some of the time. Knowing these guys were under the floor and in their break going to, paste dirty pictures to my leg, in the time between were up there moving these things around, and it was interesting how movie cared. I remember being in a play once, actually when I went to do the sad sequel to this, but I was doing a play in New York, and we were rehearsing the play, and the director choreographed this scene. He blocked this scene at the end of the play, and just in the rehearsal hall, everybody was in tears, and we couldn't. It had nothing to do with what had happened before. It had nothing to do with the characters, really. It was just an extraordinary moment of a director using actors as puppets to create a visual that was terrifically moving, and that's what this was. It was the combination of David and Chris creating this moment of this mechanical figure in this set that had just been destroyed by the Fly character over that time. Stumbling back and forth between these two pods, just it was quite beautiful.
Action. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and...
So, whenever you see the full, complete figure, sort of freestanding, it's what we call the lumberjack rig, which was a sort of a seesaw, a little dolly with a post in the center and a big long beam with lots of cables going to a puppet at one end and a big guy, John Berg, strapped to the other end and pushing it along with a bunch of other people with hand controllers going like this to make things work. It was probably the most versatile rig, but also one of the most time-consuming because there was a lot going on them. You know, obviously, the more stuff you've got going on, the more people involved with a puppet, the more time it takes to coordinate them all.
That's about it. 5. That's it. Wow. Okay, that works. Easy.
I think he's taking too long of a step.
For his weight.
For his weight, yeah. So if he started there, and you went a little bit further, and then he just took from here, here's a small step.
Yeah, I like that. The chain and everything seems to be okay. And if anybody's got any ideas too, please feel free to bring them.
I think it runs better wider than you get the arms.
Yeah.
Me too.
You should tell more of the story. It's not so abstract.
I think you're right. You
Get
try
that.
to get that kind of moving he does.
The Goldblum twitch.
The split in the door was bisecting his face.
Getting a little distortion?
Yeah.
For a lot of the other stuff, we had simpler puppets. We had a walking rig that was really cool to see in person. It was a suspended track with a cart on it that had these legs below it for walking, and it was a brilliant mechanism. I think John and maybe Gary Platic worked it out. I'm not really sure.
Are you rolling?
Yes, I am rolling.
Okay. Ready then? And Chris.
And it was a rowing sort of control on it.
Ready? Hold it. Oh, that's it. Oh my goodness.
Okay, turn over.
This guy will never be the puncher. And right leg.
John.
Right leg. Left leg. Cut. Shit. Cut. Shit. Yeah, really got one items. Which skid did we have on
the
that?
left foot.
The left foot skid. Yeah.
Okay, and Chris, it's yours.
Ready, and right leg.
John.
Right leg. Left leg. Right leg. Cut. That looked not bad, you know? Yeah.
Cut.
Then we had sort of just the waist-up puppet, which was used quite a bit in the telepod. The waist-up puppet was basically a rod puppet, rods for the arms, with, again, cable control mechanisms on it as well. And then the basic body was supported on fiberglass rods to get this weight sort of floating and stuff, so it's not just this heavy thing on a pedestal and blocky. And that was actually wound up being a very challenging puppet simply because we were using it in the telepod, which was an incredibly confined space.
More. Okay. Now, can you do that little kind of half smile that Jeff used to do? Okay, cut.
I told you it wouldn't work, David.
Even though the telepod was made so that certain panels could be removed here and there, you were still talking about, 8, 10, 12 people sometimes crowded in this little space here, trying to look at video monitors here while getting their arm up here. So we pulled a few muscles shooting that stuff.
Marker.
Okay, let's let the slate out. You got those positions, Jim? Okay. Okay, ready? Ready. Action. Okay, and 1, 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3. Well, let's come on. Let's cut. Okay, action, Bug. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3.
One more time.
1, 2, 3, hit.
Okay, Louis, go on in. Keep rolling. He's going to score it, and then we're going to go through.
Remember that diagonal, Louis.
So you can see the bullseye thing. Yes, sir. Okay.
Ready.
Okay, action.
Ready, and 1, 2, 3, hit.
Look good to me. Cut.
Great, guys. Thank you. Next shot. Here we go.
Yay.
Turn on your light. Thank you. And turn over camera. Rolling. Speed.
Ready. Okay, Janico light, action.
Okay, action.
Flash.
So at the end of the film, we have a scene where the pod, the creature, the fly is in there and it's trying to get out.
We were in a strange situation because this film was different. It wasn't like other films that were being made. I mean, it kind of fulfilled the obligations of the genre, but also, definitely functioned on another sort of bizarre level. So what we decided to do was show it to Barry Diller, without kind of going through all the strata of executives, because he had been involved, and so that was sort of the big crapshoot. And he saw the movie with Larry Gordon, Scott Rudin. I don't remember who was there, but and he came out and he said to Cronenberg, I think you've made a masterpiece. So then we just we screened it for audiences.
I mean, first, I guess if we're talking about previews, my feelings about the preview process probably wouldn't want to be published on a studio DVD. You can learn a lot from previews, but quite often they exist to tell the studio executives what they want to hear, or relieve them of making responsibilities which might cause their job to be in jeopardy and their ass to be burned. On the other hand, the previews for The Fly went extremely well.
You always learn something. I mean, there was the scene where where he's just falling apart, and and she goes to hug him, which is just the biggest moment in the whole film. And the first time we saw that with an audience, Cronenberg and I just kind of looked at each other like, wow, we didn't even know that was a big moment. So it's always really informative.
We previewed twice at the old Uptown in Toronto. Mel was there. It was raining. I know that because I spent most of the time in the alley outside. Why did I spend most of the time in the alley? Because I was incredibly nervous. I can't sit in a preview. I've never been able to do it. I can't do it, and I won't be able to do it anytime in the future. I just can't do it. But that did give me the opportunity of seeing what happened in the lobby. Several people left. One person was ill. One young man who must have been 17 or 18 came out, looked at me very intensely and said, "Are you involved with this movie?" And I said, "Possibly." And he said, "People shouldn't be allowed to make movies like this." Meanwhile, in the auditorium, they were tearing the seats out. They were yelling and screaming and talking to the screen. It was like a Times Square screening,
We had one reel that really kind of sailed over the top. Jeff's character is, wants to do sort of a test run on fusing two entities from two pods, and he puts a cat in one and a monkey in the other, and they kind of end up being a cat monkey that pops out. It's this kind of horrible kind of freakish thing that's obviously in pain and doesn't quite know how to move, and he beats it to death with a lead pipe and goes up on the roof and is screaming because his life has just turned to this horrible nightmare, and an arm pops out of his side, and he falls down falls off the roof and is climbing up a building. It's it was this was like really the kind of full force wham. We're into the dark stuff.
Go crazy. Okay, I'm gonna hit the bar. Okay, hit the bar. Yeah, let's have some blood, guys. And take that, Jim, you bastard. Okay, cut.
The Monkey Cat was, I think, a sequence that suffered a number of ills. For me, as the effects guy, unfortunately, we wound up shooting it very quickly at the end of the day when everybody was really tired, and none of the setups were what I wanted. I was like kind of grumbling through the entire shoot, going, "We should be saving this for another day," but couldn't do that. And it was another pity of it that I really look back on. I know Stefan does as well. It was with the makeup. That's the scene where we did one version of makeup that's not seen in the film at all now, and it was actually both our favorites.
413, take 2, pick up.
Because it had a lot of there's sort of a Jekyll and Hyde quality to the point in the makeup. It wound up being a sequence that, for the character, I didn't think worked as well either, because he's sort of like, you didn't really get why he was being so cruel to these animals and stuff after you'd seen him being much more sympathetic and in pain about what he'd done to the baboon, which was originally going to be a rhesus monkey. The monkey cat was originally a monkey cat, and then it turned into a baboon cat somewhere along the production. We'd done it, sculpted it, it was all together. And so we had to lop the head off and do a whole new sculpture and mechanics for it and everything else.
That's right. I remember it got, like The Exorcist, it got every time you see it gets weirder and more horrifying, and these sort of set pieces where things happen. I do remember that. What I really remember is that little middle section where they built a, not out of brick, but whatever it is, the material, a faux brick wall, like a couple story or so high, on an angle like that. And, with a couple of window frames in it on the sound stage, and then the camera would be like that and follow me, and I had to go to the top of this thing, and in order to slip down the thing, I had this suit on. It was a big suit, and it's kind of sticky, it's rubber, so in order to slide down this thing, they had to jelly me all up with, like KY jelly, actually. Did he tell you this? And it took like tube after tube. They would just and then smear it all over me, and I'd go to the top of this thing, and action. I'm falling, and then take a big kind of amusement park ride slide down this thing, and then land, boom, on this tin corrugated roof, and bang, and did that a few times. It was fun, but it was also a little like, gee, what, and quit show business? It was like, I guess this is adult, entertainment in some way. And then they cut it out. Yeah, KY jelly.
Okay, action!
Keep going, okay? Yeah, we're tough to. Yeah. Can you slide down fast? I got it. That kind of thing.
Well, you might be able to work it down a bit more. Stay on the ball with your feet. Into your canvas. Switch your knees out to the side. You're gonna get
It looks like I'm pushing myself down as I am.
Yeah. Just a hernia bulge, Stefan?
Yeah. Go on. Take it off. Anything in that bulge to start with. Nothing. Guy, nothing.
Okay, hold it. Yeah.
Absolutely zero. Okay, action, Jeff. And now bulge. Good dramatic hit, come on.
There's a sequence, I think it's after the tail end of the monkey cat sequence, where Brundlefly climbs up onto the roof. He's caught on one of the rooftops, and out of his side there's a bulge, and he feels a pain, and this strange twisty little insect leg starts breaking free.
Yeah. Hold on to the chain if you can.
Yeah, higher, guy.
Okay, Guy, you can start.
Go.
Bring your hand up, your right hand, but keep it tight to your body.
Yeah. Down.
Lower to your body. Oh, you got to tilt. You got to tilt down and keep that in frame. You must keep that in frame.
Lift it higher. Lift it higher.
Keep it in frame.
Lift it all the way up.
You got to go with it, but it's got to come up because we're going to see a lot of stuff we don't want to see. That's it. Now tilt up with it. Just gently ease it up. Thank you.
Can you lift your hand higher even?
Okay, now your right hand can come around and feel the base of it, but not over that part of your body, over your belly. That's it. Keep it tight to your body. Come close to it. Okay, cut.
And he's just so horrified at it, he actually gnaws this appendage off.
Okay, now you get down to bite it. Okay, now Kenny's going to go back up.
You've got more to...
Okay, he's going to bite more, sorry.
Bit his teeth out.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
Look at your wound now.
How do we up on the wound or the...
Yeah, no, on his face. Now tilt up with his face, please. Tilt up higher, please. Okay, Jeff, you can tilt your head back in anguish. Way back, way back. And now roll over. Huh? Cut. I said roll over.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Quite graphic and quite strong, but I thought it had a real great bizarre quality to what was going on with the character.
And when we screened it, aside from being a little too intense for some people, this one woman had thrown up. I mean, she made it to the bathroom and everything, but she had thrown up, and it taught us a very valuable lesson, which was we were basically telling a story where the protagonist on some level becomes the antagonist, and we had to keep the audience sort of locked in to the tragedy that this guy was going through. And if you beat an animal, even a cat monkey, to death with a lead pipe, your audience is no longer interested in your problems. I mean, the audience is, it's just like, this is too much. Whether it was Brundle's character that, like, they kind of detached from, or the film that they detached from kind of going for this, real, kind of like violent, nightmarish screeching kind of thing. They just weren't the audience was not invested in the film anymore. And it just never the rest of the film didn't play as well. It was just obvious that the film was a better film for an audience without that stuff.
Hold it there. Will be tail slant.
Oh, rolling.
Tail slate.
Speed.
Ready. You know what I didn't like at the time, now that I remember it? It probably could be fine now, I'm not as involved, but I was emotionally involved. And at one point I strongly lobbied with David. I said, don't let her wind up with status. I don't want to see her after my death. I don't want to think that this was just an interlude, and she wound up. Now, maybe in the adult world, that doesn't really diminish our relationship, which always in the movie would have been depicted, I suppose, as something special, real, romantic, deep, interesting, but I didn't want her to wind up with Stathis Borans.
Action.
It's okay. I'm here. Everything's okay.
God, it was that dream again. I was having sex with baby.
This baby's mine, remember? Yours and mine. The worst thing that could possibly happen is it'll look more like me than you.
Yeah. I'm okay now. I remember. I remember strongly feeling like that should not be the ending. I think I was very, very sure that it should end the way that it does now end.
I remember all during it I was, and you're what? Really? You're including it? Don't even, why would you test that? No, don't. Well, you tested it last night? How did, oh, good, right, of course they didn't want to, and I had a whole, I rehearsed my whole speech, why it was wrong, and I was very involved.
Rolling. Camera 199 slate 453 take 2.
That's all right. Ready.
Oh, no.
It's okay.
Oh, God.
It's okay.
It's that dream again. I was having sex, baby.
It's okay. There's no baby. There's no baby. Everything's okay.
Yeah. I'm okay now. It's okay.
That sequence was handled by John Berg, doing the stop motion for it. And I think there was a pretty strong awareness that it was a big maybe. The butterfly baby was a big maybe sequence from the start. Stop motion is stop motion, and it just didn't fit with the reality of the rest of the movie. And also, when she blows his head off, the movie's over. You know, you're in the most tragic, powerful moment of the picture, and I think that was, you know, brilliant that David chose to leave the audience there.
That was something that I wanted. You know, that was something I wanted. I thought it would be an interesting way to end it. You know, instead of showing the dark side of, you know, the fly with the kind of mutant fly mixture, it was this sort of beautiful little fairy-like cherub that was just sort of, you know, came out of this larva and flew away in a very kind of lyrical way. But I think I thought it would be an interesting way to end the movie. Cronenberg didn't like it. I got to say, I don't think anybody liked it. I thought, and on seeing the execution, I thought it was interesting, but you know, I was totally fine with deferring to everybody else.
But there's stuff in films you just have to try, because who knows? It could have been a really memorable moment. You just never know till you push things to that level.
And I think we even shot a version where I wake up from a nightmare alone in a bed. And then you see, as I lay back down, you see that I'm pregnant, and then I have the butterfly dream. So I think I liked that, actually. But I think the reason it didn't end up with that was partly because the butterfly never looked great. You know, that would have had to look very not funny. You know, it would have to look really very good. But it was a lovely idea, and I liked that ending.
Cut.
Post-production did, in fact, differ considerably on The Fly from other films I'd done with David, and it wasn't because it was, well, perhaps it was, yeah, I guess it was, because it was a major studio picture. We had an awful schedule. It was the hardest picture I've ever worked on. We worked hours and hours and hours. It was a total nightmare. I think we were working 20 hours a day, and there were a lot of us. Huge sound crew, large picture crew. We were all working in the same place. We had a weight room set up. We had a common room where we ate donuts. We were there all the time. I think I showed David the first cut in March, And we started to mix at Twickenham in England on the 28th.
The first time when I was alone, don't go back to him. Could be contagious.
I'm afraid!
Don't be afraid.
No. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Help me. Please, help me.
The Fly, rated R, starts Friday, August 15th at theaters everywhere.
Again, I was apprehensive because Cronenberg writes very differently than I. I'm a rather florid writer. Some might even say purple prose, but I believe you're writing for people who can't necessarily visualize, so you have to really paint the pictures for them. So it's very florid. Cronenberg's script is very lean and terse because he's got it all up in his head and he knows, I guess, what he's shooting. And so some of the resonance there, I think when I first read his script, and of course there was also that sort of, I'm being thrown off this movie, and so you have that sort of feeling. But when I saw the film and I saw how it had come around, I said, well, this is brilliant, and I'm delighted to have my name on it.
Yeah, I've seen it several times since, and I think it plays very well, and it's very, strangely enough, very sweet, sad love story. It's just that one of the people in the love story is wearing a fly suit.
The first screening that I saw of The Fly, when it was just before it was released, I was totally shocked because I didn't realize that we were working on a love story. I thought we were working on a horror movie, and it was really a love story, and it was quite nice. I liked that.
I found it difficult to watch a bit first. I find his movies difficult to watch sometimes. I mean, there's a kind of real emotional discomfort, that I see in the characters sometimes. And I'm not a great watcher of horror movies anyway. And I find these more horrific for the reality of the relationships a lot of the time.
I remember when the movie first came out, because I like to do this, but it was particularly fun with this. And I think with Geena, we found ourselves doing publicity in New York and went to Times Square. And on the first weekend, and it was, a hit. It was, there was full theater and a very enthusiastic audience. And we stood in the back. Geez, that was fun.
It's really fun to see movies with an audience, especially if they're going to have audible reactions, and it was just so much fun. We walked in. After it started, we went in and stood in the back, and they were like, no, don't go in there. It was just great. It was really fun.
People like that movie.
I've never seen the film. Obviously, deep down inside, the memory is obviously triggered by something of such a great tragic loss that I imagine by seeing the film that will just, replay the memory for me. I also don't think I want to see the film because I had such a picture of what it was from our script that I know that I'll be disappointed, and I'm sure David's made a fantastic movie, which obviously this DVD is, so watch the movie, it's great. But I'm sure the things we had planned were quite different, and I suppose what I want to do is keep that vision in my mind. I've got that movie, it's playing in my mind, I can see